Today our guests on Let's Talk Jonesboro are Amanda Frankenberger from the Children's Advocate Center and Angie Tate from Casa. And tell us a little bit, real quick, Angie, about what Casa does.
So CASA is their court-appointed special advocates that advocate for children that are in foster care. They're court-appointed. They go through almost 30 hours of training, and then the judge appoints an advocate to a foster care case. And they advocate for the children in foster care. And what that looks like is the advocate will visit with the biological parents, the foster parents, the schools, the daycares, the doctors, the therapists, and they gather all this information, and then when we have a court date for a child in foster care, then the advocate's able to present that information to the judge, independent from all of the other players and parties in the case. So it's just people from our community. We have people that are doctors, lawyers. They work every day in the service industry. It's just retired people, young people just coming out of college or just coming out of school. You know, they have to be 21 years old to be able to volunteer. But if you have 6 to 10 hours a month where you can visit this child, get to know this child, and sometimes a lot of times in foster care, children, they will see the people in their lives changing so often. They may go to multiple different schools. They may go to multiple different foster homes, have different caseworkers, but that CASA, they start to see as that constant face that follows them everywhere. And that's one thing that these kids do not have a lot of, is the stability and consistency as the family's going through the trauma of being in foster care.
So you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer. You can be in a lot of backgrounds. That you just got a little stable life and a big heart
Absolutely.
to take care of a child.
We have stay-at-home moms. We have teachers. We have husbands and wives that are teams that are really making an impact on the children in our community.
Very nice. And now, Amanda, your department is connected to this, but you do a little bit more, a little different work. Tell us about what you do.
Well, I actually came from the CASA program before I became the director of the Children's Advocacy Center. So what we are, as soon as a report is made to the hotline, when a child is suspected of abuse or neglect. So we are a safe, child-friendly environment. Anytime a child is suspected of severe abuse, we're talking severe physical abuse or sexual abuse, they would come to our center, and we cover 7 counties. We cover basically all of Northeast Arkansas. So anytime a child is suspected of any of these violent crimes, they will come to our center. We're located here in Jonesboro, and I supervise and manage a whole unit of forensics teams. And so the non-offending caregiver and the child victim will come here. They'll get a forensic interview, and these interviews are live recorded. And so anybody that is involved in this investigation, we're talking law enforcement or DCFS, or there's a civilian unit under the Arkansas State Police called the Crimes Against Children Division. And then those individuals in charge of that investigation will also work those investigations and observe those interviews as well. And so the child will get their interview there, and then also supervise 2 sexual assault nurses. And the child can also get their medical exam as well there. And then there are also advocates, and they will make sure that every child gets their medical exam and make sure that the parent is getting the services that they need. And we also offer free trauma-based mental health services. So the advocate is also a key component of all the services that this family is going to get, and they're going to make sure that they kind of walk the family through the system. So we basically get the family immediately as that hotline report has made in. So if the child is in imminent danger, DCFS may remove the family and they may go into foster care. And then so therefore CASA may come in. And then so we've had a lot of CASA volunteers come in and work with our center and work with our advocates. And everything that is provided at our center is free of charge.
That's a fabulous thing you have there. And before we continue, let's talk about, because if someone's watching this who knows a child that's in distress, what do they do? What is the first thing they do?
If child abuse is suspected, they need to call the child abuse hotline at 1-844-SAVE-A-CHILD.
Save a child?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if you do suspect that a child is being abused, don't waste time. Don't even wait till the rest of the show. So
Absolutely.
I think that's the whole concept we have here. Now, right now you guys have a full caseload. I think you told me Casa has 25 volunteers with 25 cases right now.
Well, we serve 5 counties.
Okay.
Craighead, Poinsett, Mississippi County, Greene County, and Clay County.
Okay.
So right now in Craighead County, we're really somewhere we've never been before, where we have 2 full-time caseworkers that are advocate supervisors that are in Craighead County, and Connie Lindley and I both have full caseloads. We each have 25 volunteers each. So that's 50 volunteers out of our community that are advocating for children in foster care in Craighead County. And that's huge. We, at one point at the end of last year, we were serving 100% of the children that were in foster care in Craighead County. So that's big for us. We
big.
are really needing advocates in the communities of Mississippi County, Poinsett County, and Greene County to become advocates and advocate for the children that are in foster care in those counties.
It's important to live in the county that you're serving. Is that how that works, or is it just because of the location is better?
Well, and that's always the first direction that we go. If you live in this county, normally you will volunteer in the county that you live or work in. But our counties are really so demographically close. Other than Mississippi County, it's kind of far away. You can actually live in Craighead County and advocate for a child that's in foster care in Greene County.
Yeah.
That would not exclude you at all. If you're a person that hears this and you're wanting to advocate for a child in foster care and volunteer to be an extra set of eyes and ears on this child, and you're in Jonesboro and you hear that the need's in Paragould, you can definitely help that child. Basically what you see when we think about a child that's in foster care in Craighead County or Greene County or Mississippi County, that basically means that child was removed from a home in one of those counties.
Right.
And they're appointed to the judge's court that's in that county. However, they may be in foster care. They may have been removed in Paragould, but they may be in a foster home in Manila or in Pine Bluff, anywhere in the state of Arkansas. Because what happens when a child comes into foster care, DCFS, they start calling their foster care pool. They start closest to where the child was removed, but they may not be able to find a home until they're even outside of our district. So for an advocate to live in Craighead County and advocate for someone in Greene County, basically that means you're going to need to be able to go to court in Craighead County once every 3 months, to report to the judge and give your recommendations on this child that you're advocating for. So those are the only barriers about living and working and advocating for the children in our district.
I see. So, and Amanda, you have a large staff and these are all professionals,
Yes.
your staff.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that process, what you go and how it gets to Casa.
So when we have a family come in, that hotline report has been made normally within the past 24 hours. So this family, when they come into our center and enter our doors, they're in crisis mode. So the majority of my staff, they're minimum bachelor's level, and my therapists, they're master's level, and then my nurses, they are RNs. But the training that they have had to go through is 40 hours plus, and then a minimum 100 clinical hours beyond their regular RN. And then we also have an expert reviewer down at Arkansas Children's Hospital that reviews these sexual assault exams. So it's a very strong forensics team that we have, and we work closely with Jonesboro Police Department and the Department of Children and Family Services. And when children's safety we feel are in danger, we all work together, what's called the multidisciplinary team. So we work with lots of community professionals to make sure that these kids are kept safe. And if they're not, sometimes kids do have to be removed from their home. And my advocate staff, that they will make sure and check in with these families to make sure that families are getting services. And if they're not removed from their home, and if the parent is going to be supportive and take care of these kids' needs, we'll make sure that the family is supportive and making sure that that child is getting the help and the trauma therapy that they need.
Now, is this situations in which children have neither parent or only one parent and that's abusive? I mean, does it go to something else if you have one parent or a guardian and a child that are okay, or how does it work? I mean, when it gets to your level?
A lot of times we see sexual abuse does cycle in families. Mom may have a history of sexual abuse in her family, and a lot of times children, they do know their offender. So we really have to make sure that we do work closely with that family to ensure that they will protect the child. And if they're not, that's like I stated earlier, we just have to make sure that the Department of Children and Family Services is going to step in to provide the extra support that they need. And there's other really good counseling agencies here in Jonesboro that will work with children and just to ensure that like safety plans are put in place in the home. And if it's an out-of-home offending caregiver or out-of-home offender, we'll work with Jonesboro Police Department, and the investigators will work with Jonesboro Police Department to ensure that, maybe that they're arrested and that this thing doesn't happen again.
Angie, we were talking before we started filming about the gravity of the type of work you do. And I think, first of all, everyone has to admire and appreciate the type of work that you guys do and what you see every day. But for all the frustrations, you do know that you're doing some good.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us an example of a success story? Obviously, we don't want to know names or anything, but if just an example of a success story that you feel good about or that you saw that worked out and made a change in a life.
Absolutely. I think I will talk about a case where we had two teenage boys that their immigration status was illegal, came into foster care. And these boys had been in foster care for a long time. They had come to the United States as babies and never lived in Mexico, but their mother was from Mexico. Their mother was here and left them. These boys came into foster care where they're turning 17 and 18 years old, and Casa and DCFS and the attorney ad litem, we're all thinking, these boys are about to turn 18. We've got to do something to get these boys started on their immigration status. And Casa and the attorney at litem and DCFS worked together for almost a year. And these boys they have their green card. They've started in that process. And these boys are going to do great things. They're going to stay in foster care, and they're going to go to college. They're just getting there. These kids are going to be able to do great things just because of the interaction and working together of all the parties that are involved in supporting and taking care of these kids that are in foster care.
All they needed was a hand up and the opportunity to be the type of people that
Absolutely.
are contributing and good for us.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. You know what, Amanda, I kind of want to ask the same question of you.
A success story looks like when you have, I talked about our multidisciplinary team that consists of the Child Advocacy Center, our mental health professionals, our law enforcement, and our other investigating agency, the Crimes Against Children Division. A success story looks like when you have all of our parties and our prosecutors, when you have all of our parties that come together and work a case successfully, and when you have a victim that will come in and that's interviewed and gives a credible interview and a credible disclosure, and you have law enforcement that will go out that has observed that interview and can go interview an offender based on that interview that he's observed and get, if he doesn't get a confession, or if he gets a confession and then makes an arrest, and then we can get that victim into some therapy, some trauma-based therapy, and then that victim starts to heal. That's a success story. And so when you've got all these parties coming together and working successfully, and even our nurses, when a victim can come into our advocacy center, and we call it a one-stop shop in a child-friendly environment.
That's good.
You know, that's a success story.
That is, just being able to create a one-stop shop. Is
Yeah,
great.
and all like I said, and all these services are completely free, and it cost us $1,200 to serve one child between the interview and the trauma-based mental health and the advocacy services and the medical services for one child.
Tell us about what COVID has done to your operation. I mean, everybody's had their own unique story of the pandemic. So what's your story?
I've always said child abuse does not stop during the pandemic. Just last year, 2020, we have served more children than we ever have. We served 427 children in 2020. We didn't work remotely. We worked a skeleton staff for a little bit right when the governor shut down all the schools. We didn't see anybody for a couple of weeks because there was not a child around a mandated reporter, and there were no calls coming into the hotline. And then once we started entering phase 2, and that's about when the floodgates started coming in. And yes, and so we ended 2020 serving the most children that we ever have.
Wow. And Angie, you guys, similar story?
Absolutely. Some of the issues and challenges that we faced through the pandemic was, the only way we can serve our community and serve these children that are in foster care is to have volunteers out of our community that are willing to do this. So in the beginning, February, March of last year, we were scrambling, because we would go out and recruit and talk to civic groups, talk to churches, just to get the word out. Well, all of that stopped. So we had to get very creative on just how to keep and grow and maintain and grow our volunteer base. So, we do a mini conference every year for our advocates. We do one in the spring, one in the fall. So last year in March, it was time to do, what it is we have speakers come in, we serve them breakfast, we get members, judges, attorneys, members, mental health therapists that come in and talk to our advocates on how to, first of all, self-care. How do you work through this every day and still stay sane? And not just get really burn out on it. So we would have those people come in and talk. DCFS would come in and talk to us. We didn't get to have that this year. So we scrambled around and we did a virtual mini conference webinar, and attendance was about the same. So we were able to do that. We got creative on social media with recruiting, and we just went right into our next training class. We swore in 18 volunteers from our communities virtually. The judges would log on to Zoom and raise your right hand and swear these people in. So it's just, and we only ended up serving 9 hours less last year. Our advocates did, advocating for children in foster care, than we did the year before. So our advocates really stepped up, and FaceTime, phone calls, all of those different things to be able to still advocate for those kids and not leave them out there.
It strikes me that you guys have so much work to do with children and families, but you also have to maintain the spirit and the emotional, mental health of your staff, because you're dealing with so much sadness around you. What does that entail? What does that look like?
Well, I also use screening tools during the hiring process, and honestly, not everybody's cut out for this work. And I really, truly feel like this work is a gift for some people. I feel like it's a gift of mine. And there's just some people that you have to have a passion for this work. And if you're not passionate for this kind of work, and then some of these subjects that we talk about with families every single day, it's difficult. And one question I ask people when I hire them, I said, how do you feel about talking to families and caregivers about sexual abuse? And I just lay it.
Right.
And then, and some people have their own trauma that they bring to them, with them. And if that comes out in the interview, and then I asked them, I was like, and I was like, how do you deal with that? And if they can't, then it may not be a good fit.
Right.
But I truly believe this work, you have to have a passion for it. And also talk about wellness and self-care a lot. And we do have 2 therapists at our center, and so we do quarterly things with our staff, and we do fun things, and we make it a point just to get out of the office and, focus on ourselves, and, because, we preach hope and healing to our families, and we need to do that for ourselves.
Yeah. I think you guys have a lot to deal with right now, and I know that some fundraising opportunities have gone away during COVID.
Yes.
Do both of you have needs for funding right now?
Absolutely. So Casa is one of our grant funders is BOCA, and we're largely grant funded, and I think this community has grown well aware of the Casa Carnival that we have each year that involves the kids and families in our communities, and last year we weren't able to do that, and now here we are in 2021, and it's just not possible again. We usually have hundreds of people through the door to participate in Casa Carnival. So, but we have some things up our sleeve. We were able to have our Casa Classic golf tournament in the fall last year, and that's always fun and does well for funding for us. We have a 25th anniversary that we're celebrating this year. Casa has been in Northeast Arkansas now for 25 years.
That's great.
And we've got some fun things coming up for that. So,
is there anything we need to talk about and promote now, and ways to help you guys with funding?
Absolutely. So I think that I was just having this conversation with our director this week. I think that sometimes when we do the interview, because an advocate, if they want to be an advocate, we do a little interview with them, and we go into some of the things that we deal with and kind of what their life looks like. I think that it's a challenge sometimes to get past the thought that, okay, well, this interview, I don't think that you're really going to like this, or, hey, I don't think I can do this. And it's okay, let us know if you have an interest again. And we walk away, and we leave a lot of things on the table. I mean, people can help with Casa, with marketing, with social media, with different talents that they have if they don't have the time or the ability to be an advocate, right, to help with fundraisers. Different people in the community, they have time, and they have a really busy life, but maybe they have time a couple of times a year to be able to volunteer and help with those different things.
Right.
So.
That's good. And Amanda, you guys have a fundraiser. You lost a fundraiser
Yes.
to COVID.
Well, we were getting ready in 2020 to kick off our masquerade ball, and we had to cancel that. And so here we are in 2021, and we're not going to be able to do that again. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our Pinwheel sponsorships, and April's Child Abuse and Prevention Month, and pinwheels are the national sign, and pinwheels are very whimsical and they're very childlike, and so you can go to our website and get some information about that. So if businesses want to be a pinwheel sponsor and they can get information about that, you can have a really fun NEA CAC yard sign in your business the entire month, or you could do an individual sponsorship and support the Children's Advocacy Center. Like I said, it costs about $1,200 to serve a child. Even though, like what Angie said earlier, we are grant funded, but there's a lot of other services that we do provide to children and their families that are not covered by grants. You know, a lot of families come in and we'll do needs assessments, and we'll find out that, you know, they don't know where their next meal's coming from, and they may not have a whole lot of clothes on their back. I've had a nurse start a whole clothing closet, and so we've done that, and then we'll help them with food and gas cards. And because, you know, when we cover 7 counties, some families have to drive an hour, and, you know, we'll help them with gas and things like that. So there's a lot of services that we provide that are not grant funded.
How can people contribute?
Oh, there's a lot of ways people can contribute. We always need like water bottles and non-perishable snacks for families and children. We give them that. Like I said, gas cards. We always assist families that do have to travel with gas. Blankets for medical exams. We do ask for new blankets. If we run out, we go purchase those for children. And then when they leave, they get to take that blanket with them. Children always get a new stuffed animal when they leave. We've had kids leave say, I didn't know I was get to come into the toy store today. And then there's some kids that say, this is the nicest thing I have. And so they leave, and so they'll leave with a new stuffed animal. So there's a lot of other things that we do that is not covered by grants.
And how can people donate?
They can call the center or at 275-7902 and arrange a drop-off, or they can look on our website,
Which is?
neacac.net.
And for you guys, Angie?
So I think some of the things that, by the time that we see our children that we're going to advocate for, they're in foster care, they've been removed from the home.
Okay.
They have gone through CAC. They have gone through DHS or DCFS, the trauma of them removing them from their home. So when Casa comes on board, a lot of the needs that they have, clothing, shelter, food, those kind of things, those are being taken care of by the foster care system. A lot of the things that Casa would need from the community, if you can't volunteer, is, of course, financial donations to be able to train and support our advocates. We need relationships, partnerships with people in the community that provide resources. Whenever we have a child that's going through foster care, this child needs tutoring because they're 2 years behind in their school studies. Well, they're going to have some tutoring. Tutoring costs money, or it costs a donation of your time. So resources like that CASA can provide or connect the needs for.
Okay.
So those relationships and partnerships are very important. And as Amanda said, we're grant funded, but the 2 large fundraisers that we have, the Casa Classic and the Casa Carnival, that provides, a third of our funding for the year.
Okay.
So it's all the grants are great and fine, but absolutely the fundraisers just.
Have we told people how to contact and donate to you guys?
So Casa you can contact at www.neacasa.org, or you can call 870-333-5039, and there's also a donate button on our website.
Wonderful. I know so many of you have hearts for the children and the children in need, and these ladies have very big hearts and have dedicated themselves to it, along with their staffs and a lot of volunteers. So the City of Jonesboro thanks you. Mayor Copenhaver thanks you so much for what you do, and we're proud to have you on Let's Talk Jonesboro.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.